Hello learners, welcome to the next session of separation of proteins. This is in our series, this is a sixth session. In this session, we will be discussing about dialysis, centrifugation and ammonium sulfate precipitation. So far in our previous sessions, we have discussed about extraction of proteins by using various methods like mechanical and non-mechanical method. In this session, we will be particularly focusing on concentrating the proteins, that is by using dialysis as well as what is called as centrifugation, then followed by ammonium sulfate precipitation. So the first method which we will be discussing is centrifugation. So in this centrifugation, what is happening? We are going to apply a centrifugal force, and this centrifugal force, the one which allows you to separate and purify mixtures of biological particles in a liquid medium, in a liquid solution. That means when you are aiming to separate any biological product or protein, you need to first isolate it. You need to isolate and then you need to purify it. So for this purpose, by damaging the cell, we are going to get the homogeneous, and then we are going to centrifuge it. By centrifuging, what we are doing, simply just imagine that we are going to remove solids and liquids present in a solution. Okay, this is a simple way of representing centrifugation. But when you are going to do it in systematic manner, then we call it as centrifugation technique. Let us see the principle and other applications of centrifugation technique. So here this picture shows you the simple and common centrifuge, which we call it as tabletop model and tabletop centrifuge, which we generally use in our routine laboratories as well as in your medical laboratories for separation of serum and separation of what is called as blood cells, WBC, RBC and other cells. Coming to the history of this centrifuge, and this centrifuge for the first time developed in the year 1920 by the scientist named as Svedberg. He developed this technique called centrifugation. The centrifugation is modified into further varieties by Claude in 1940. And coming to the main force that is working behind centrifuge is RCF. So what is RCF? So RCF is nothing but a ratio. Ratio between what? So ratio between a radius and the speed. So when you develop a ratio between the radius and the speed, then it is going to consider to be as a relative centrifugal field, which we represent with the help of the alphabet small g, and we abbreviate it as RCF, relative centrifugal field. Along with this, there is a unit to represent the RCF. That unit is nothing but RPM, which we call it as revolutions per minute. So how much RCF you are using, you can denote with the help of RPMs. Here, since we are discussing about the methods of what is called as extraction and separation of proteins, we are not talking about more about the principle working behind the centrifuge. However, we will be limiting ourselves to the various factors and various types of rotas and various types of centrifugation techniques that can be adapted for the separation of the especially proteins, and along with proteins we will be focusing on the other subcellular organelles. Okay, so let us see some of the factors that are influencing the centrifugation. The first one is, you can see, density. The more the density, the faster will be the sedimentation, and similarly the more the mass of the cell or the protein, the faster will be the centrifugation. And similarly here, the size along with the mass, and along with these two, there is another factor that will affect centrifugation, that is frictional force. Here in simple words, if you imagine, for example, you take a cup of water in a glass and then put some what is called as flour, your starch, and just stir it and leave it for a while. What will happen? If you observe from the sides, you can observe the solid particles which are bigger in size will start settling down speedily, whereas the one which are in lighter in size, they will come down, but the time will be different. That means larger molecule will come down fastly, the smaller one will keep floating, and after some time it will come down. Here what is happening? Along with this sedimentation property, we are giving some sort of force. That force allows these particles to settle down in a rapid means. Okay. In the picture you can see part of the centrifuge that is called rotor. And if you just go back to the previous slide and see here, this is the instrument. In this middle you can see the presence of rotors. In next images you can clearly see what is rotor exactly. And here this rotor is inside the centrifuge, and this rotor is made up of an alloy. That means it is a mix of metals which will enable to withstand with the extreme temperatures, extreme pressures and speeds which are varying from one form to another form. This rotor will take care. And the main purpose of this rotor is, if you see these spaces, the white spaces here on both the sides, these spaces are meant for to hold and to keep your centrifugal tubes. That means whatever the sample, like for example, we all know about the collecting the blood in our laboratory experiments. So those blood samples can be placed here in these rotors, and they are going to be rotated to separate the serum from the blood. Okay. In this rotor, the middle you can see there is a axis. Okay. And if you see, this is rotating like this, anti-clockwise. And since the cavities in this rotor, they are fixed, the angle of this rotor is not going to change throughout the process of centrifugation. Hence we call this rotor as a fixed angle rotor. And similarly on the right side, if you see, the force is centrifugal force. You can see the field is working towards outside. That means the moment you are going to switch on the instrument, what will happen? So the gravity will work towards downside. You can see in this middle line, the dotted line shows the gravity is working in this direction. The centrifugal field is working in the outer direction. So these two forces will allow the particles present inside the solution to settle in a rapid manner. So if you observe the second rotor, this is called vertical tube rotor. Okay, that means here the tubes are in a straight positions like this. And the principle and process is similar. And moving further, now you can observe the difference between the previous one, that is vertical tube, and as well as the swinging bucket model. So in these two models, the major difference is in one, that is first model, the centrifuge tubes are in a fixed position. But whereas in a swinging bucket model, the moment you switch on the centrifuge, the tube which are vertical at the beginning, they will start taking a position like towards this. At the very beginning, the tube is like this. The moment you switch on the centrifuge, what is happening? You can see the tubes are taking horizontal positions from vertical, they are converting to horizontal. So like this, in this rotor, that is swinging bucket rotor, the centrifuge tubes are being rotated from vertical to horizontal positions. But remember one thing, they are not rotating continuously. Once you switch on the instrument, they are going to take this horizontal position and rotate for certain time. Once you switch off, again they come back to the same position. Hence we call it as swinging bucket model of rotation. Yeah, in this picture we are trying to explain you what is happening exactly during the process of centrifugation. If you observe at the very beginning, in this case, for example, if you observe this one as what is called a vertical method, here what is happening? The sample is like this, fixed angle method. Sample is like this. When you are going to increase the time and speed of centrifuge, what is happening? The sample is separated into multiple layers. You can see here. Similarly, in the middle one, this is what is called as vertical rotor method. So in this case, what is happening? The sample which is present on the top layer, as you are increasing the centrifugal field, the time is progressing, you can see the sample is being separated into individual vertical lines and sometimes into what is called as bands also. Whereas in the third model, that is swinging bucket model, as I said, at the very beginning, the sample is in a vertical position. The moment you switch on the centrifuge, what is happening? The tube is going to take the horizontal position. But remember, because of the centrifugal field which is working outside, it will never allow the sample to come out. It will always force the sample to move out of the centrifugal tube, and the gravity is also helping it too. And at the end, what is happening? The sample is separated. So here what we are trying to convey you is, so whatever it may be the method, whether it may be a fixed angle, vertical or swinging bucket model, but the concept of centrifugal field is same. That means the force is working on the sample towards outside, and by virtue of which the sample, based on its density and its size, it is getting separated. Okay. So moving further, so there are two major types of centrifuge techniques. One is called as preparative, the other one is called analytical. So if you see the broad difference between preparative and analytical, so the word itself says preparative. That means we are going to prepare something the very primitive way. That means we are taking for example, you are taking what is called as a plant tissue, and then you are going to crush it, and then we are going to centrifuge it. Now this is called as a preparative method. But whereas in analytical method, what is happening? You are going to separate and analyze how much protein is there and what form of protein is it. Okay, so that means just preparation and then analysis. So that's why first one is called preparative and the next one is called as analytical method. Let us see the details of these two methods. In the preparative, the first one is very simple one, which we will be using in our laboratories. You can see this is a tabletop centrifuge, and since we are talking about a rotor, you can see the middle portion is nothing but a rotor, and these blue caps are nothing but your centrifuge tubes. Okay, and here certain properties of this tabletop model is, so the speed is 3000 rpm and there is no regulator of temperature, and this is normally used to separate your blood cells and yeast cells and other bulky precipitates present in a solution. That means here this is a very basic model of centrifugation which is there in our laboratories from your graduation and as well as in your clinical laboratories especially. Whenever you are sick, you go to a technician to test your blood sample for various diseases. In those testing purposes, they will be using this simple tabletop centrifuge where they will be separating your blood cells from your blood, and then they are collecting the serum and plasma and other what is called as fluids from your blood, and they are going to analyze. For that purpose, this centrifuge is well suited. And as we said, this centrifuge, there is no temperature control, and only we can go up to a 3000 rpm speed. Okay, let us see the next variant in this. The next variant is what is called as high speed centrifuge. Here you can see the difference between the previous one and this one is, this is also having a 2500 rpm. Okay, and the best part of this centrifuge is this is having a temperature control. That means you can use low temperatures ranging from 0 to 40 degrees centigrades, and this equipment is mainly used to collect microorganisms, cells and large cellular organelles, precipitates and chemical reactions. So like this, every type of centrifuge is having certain advantages. The first one is very primitive one, very basic model, and the next one is having little bit advanced with high speed, high rpm. Along with that, it is having a temperature control. So as there is a need, we can go on increasing and using the different types of centrifuges. So the other one is, you can see here, that is ultra centrifuge. The name itself says ultra, so it is new one. And here the best part is you can go up to 75,000 rpms. That's why it is called as ultra speed, ultra centrifuge. And the G, that means the force which you can use is up to 50,000 G. And because of these high pressures, this is considered to be as ultra centrifuge, and it is mainly useful for the separation and isolation of components present inside the cell. And then here you can see this is mainly useful for preparatory and as well as analytical methods. So since beginning we were talking about a preparative method and analytical method. So what is exactly mean by preparative and what is exactly mean by analytical, we will be discussing now. So in this preparative means, for example, as we are being biological researchers and biological students, so whenever whatever research we do, we will be focusing on the cell and its subcellular organelles. But the cell in case of living system is not freely available. It is in the form of tissue and tissue organ or organ to systems and systems to organism. This is the hierarchy of our arrangement of life. But when you want to do any analysis at cellular level, you need to homogenize. That means you need to collect a tissue and you need to chop it, and then you need to centrifuge it to get the cell, and further that cells are being disrupted by various mechanical and non-mechanical methods. After disruption, you are going to perform centrifugation. In this centrifugation, what is happening? You can separate mitochondria, Golgi complexes, and along with that you can separate ribosomes and your nucleus. So this first phase we call it as preparative phase. You can see here in this picture, if you observe what is happening in the very beginning, the first tube you can see it is a mixture of all. Okay, all types of, you can say, structures are available. And centrifugal field, the moment you switch on the centrifugal field, what is happening? There is a segregation, that means separation. You can see large molecules coming down, medium ones in the middle, and smaller one on the top. And topmost layer is with the solvent. That means this picture clearly tells us that is separation here happen purely based on the size and as well as the molecular weight of the components. That means the higher ones are occupying the bottom of the tube, whereas the smaller ones are the lighter ones on the subsequent layers. Okay, that means you can see this is a homogeneous medium and differential centrifugation. And centrifugation is purely based on their sizes. Okay, because the medium is homogeneous. Homo means similar in nature. The entire solution is similar in nature, and the separation is purely based on the size of the molecule. So this is what we call as based on the size. The next one is density gradient. So here we are going to use a solution, a medium which is having differences in the gradient. If you see, this arrow represents that the solution gradient is increasing from top to bottom. In a simple manner, in a simple language, if you discuss, for example, if you take a glass of water and put some oil on it, what happens? Being oil light in weight, it starts floating on the top, whereas water is in the bottom. If you add some another chemical, some paint into that solution, what will happen? If that paint, if that solution is having higher weight than the top of your oil, it will occupy the next layer. Then there are three layers. One is of water, then the paint and the oil, and the top is your oil. That means here if you see the arrangement, how they are arranging high gradient, medium gradient, and then light gradient, like that. Similarly, here in this type of centrifugation, we will be using gradient solutions which are having differences in their what is called as gradients. Why we are using these different gradients? Because in our biological system there are molecules with differences in size and differences in the densities. So based on their densities we will be separating them. That's why we call it as density gradient centrifugation. Let us see the details of this one. As I said, in this test tube you can see there is increase in the gradient. That means density of the solution is increasing towards bottom. Okay, and now you are applying a sample with different what is called as components. There is a mixture of sample, you can say in a better way. And now here on the right side you can observe this mixture of sample is being separated into the same, again the higher what is called as medium and the lighter ones. But when you compare the image of previous one and this one, especially the last section, you can see here there is separation, but it is a kind of mix match, you can say, some higher, lighter, and they are mixing with each other. But whereas in this case if you see there is a clear cut distinction. Smallest are on the top, lighter ones, that is medium light are in the middle, and heavy weights are at the bottom. That means here the separation is purely based on the densities. That's why we call it as density gradient centrifugation. So in this density gradient centrifugation, again there are two variants. One is called as rate zonal and the other one is isopycnic. So what is this rate zonal and what is this isopycnic? So in this rate zonal, what is happening? If you see this table, the table shows the differences between the rate zonal and as well as the isopycnic one. In this rate zonal, the gradient is shallow, whereas in isopycnic the gradient is steep. So in a simple words, shallow means there is a difference in gradient, but which is not that much high, very light difference is there. But whereas in case of steep, the difference in the gradient is very high. suddenly there is a change in the what is called as gradients. Okay, and in shallow the gradient difference will be there, but it is of very less difference. Okay, we will understand when you observe that picture of this red zonal and isopicnic. See, if you see in this picture here, you can see in red zonal the differences like 1.1 gram per ml, 1.2 gram per ml, and at the bottom is 1.7 gram per ml. That means there is a difference in the density, but it is just by 0.1 gram if you observe from top to bottom. And similarly, the separation here you can see what it says. That means all these round shaped structures, they fall in a range of 1.2 to around 1.3 gram per ml, whereas the ones which are in square shape, they fall in a range of below 1.3 and above 1.5, whereas in the bottom ones the circles fall in a range of 1.6 to 1.7 grams per ml. That means here the separation is based on no doubt on the density, but here these molecules are having more or less closer densities. That's why they are occupying certain zones. Okay, that's why we calling it as rate zone. Okay, all these belongs to one category, the second one belongs to second category, third one belongs to third category. So that's why the separation we can observe they are in the form of zones. Okay, yeah. Let's move further. Yeah. So in this you can see this is isopicnic. In this if you see, iso means same, picnic means density. Okay. If you see in this left side tube there is a mixture of what is called as component cells, whatever it may be, this mixture. Okay. But when you perform centrifugation, what is happening? This mixture is clearly separating into of similar densities, lighter, then medium, then heavier. So that means here the separation, there is no approximation here, there is exact separation based on their densities. So moving further, that is analytical centrifugation. So as we said, there is preparative, okay, then density gradient, and this is another variant that is called as analytical. So here analysis is going to take place. That means you can separate simultaneously. Along with separation you can do the analysis also, how the molecules are changing their shape, how the molecules are aggregating, and which molecule is binding with which protein. So parallelly you can do both the things, separation followed by analysis. That's why this is called as analytical centrifuge, and this technique we use at level of research when we are doing handling with proteins, lipoproteins, and what is called as their interactions. At this level you will be using this analytical method. Let us see the details of this method. As we said, you can purify the macromolecules and molecular masses. That means the components can be separated here. And here you can see the system is little bit different when compared to that of your previous centrifuges. Here we are showing a sketch of analytical ultra centrifuge. Here in this, what is happening, this is the space where we are going to place your sample. Okay, and this sample, while it is undergoing centrifugation, that means this is a rotor which is continuously rotating. Okay, this is your sample and this is a reference sample. That means you can keep a reference, that means known one with that of the unknown ones. So separation followed by analysis can be done. That means we can compare the presence or absence of some components, molecules, proteins, whatever it may be, with the known one. That means we are using the standard and then separation. That's why we can consider this one as separation along with analysis. Hence it is analytical centrifugation, where we can perform both separation along with the analysis. As I said, we can see the changes in the molecules, that is molecular complexes, and their ligand binding studies. So here the ligand binding studies are nothing but if you want to establish a relationship between a drug and a receptor and enzyme and a substrate. So you need to have this such technique that is called as ultra centrifuge, that is analytical ultra centrifuge, where we can perform both separations followed by the interaction studies. So as these are the various applications which we will be discussing throughout the session, that is separation of elements, chemical precipitates, proteins, subcellular organelles, and then extraction of solutes and lipids. And finally, we will be discussing the small topic, that is dialysis. So in this, what is happening? We are going to separate molecules. Okay, let us see the picture which will easily explain you the entire process. So if you see this beaker, and this is a membrane. Inside this membrane, there is a mixture of components, and when you are going to subject the dialysis, what is happening? From this mixture, the smaller particles are coming out of the sample, and the heavier ones will remain inside the sample. Okay, this is a simple process where we are going to separate the molecules based on their solubility and as well as based on their sizes. In this picture, you can see there is a membrane. That blue one is a membrane, and this membrane is allowing the smaller ones to come out, and the larger ones are being trapped here on the outside. This is the same method where we are going to separate the proteins, that is antibodies and antigens. And the main advantage of this method is separation of the salts and molecules. So at the end, we will be using a method that is called ammonium sulfate precipitation, which is again useful for the concentrating of the proteins. So friends, so far we have discussed about various methods like centrifugation, dialysis and ammonium sulfate precipitation. All these methods are useful for the concentration of the proteins.